Now, I wanted to talk about a new food plot location out here in Minnesota. And, we take this kind of decision pretty heavy as far as what we do with a food plot. If we attract deer to the wrong location, if we attract deer to our access, then we could really do more harm than good with a food plot, even though this is a pretty good size. So there's 6 main things that we're looking at when deciding if we're going to put that food plot here. And we're going to put the food plot here. And first off, I can tell you with the cover that's here right now, you see some briars and goldenrod, just some garbage, just really rough here. Hasn't been planted, it probably hasn't worked or been used in a long time. So we're going to be able to, whether we were to drill into this and kill it, whether we were to spray it, get it down to soil, we'll be able to plant this very easily. And I'll say that probably the way that I'm going to plant it that I would probably prefer the most as far as making it easy, because we have so much to do out here, is that I'll probably spray this area, the entire area, 3 times and kill it completely down to the soil. The first spraying is the most important. When it starts to green up around here in April, then I want to hit this 2 to 3 weeks after spring green up, and that's going to start this food plot. It's possible I'll use the buckwheat no-till, but on these new food plots that are full of a lot of thatch and vegetation, I like to kill them, get it down to the soil like we did on the Blade plot in the back where I shot Blade. That food plot's doing phenomenal. We're actually getting a lot of buck pictures there right now. That was very easy to do with just an ATV handheld spreader. We didn't even use the Packer Max on that one because it was all thatch. We were able to get the seed down to the soil and it was firm, so it wouldn't have helped to smash anything down or pack it into it. So, but anyways, we're going to make a new food plot here, and I can't wait. There's several things that we're considering, but the first that you always have to consider is hunter access. And so we want to make sure, if this is going to be a food plot on this land, how can we access around this area without spooking the deer? Well, there's a couple things. We're going to have some screening up here, but we're going to be able to walk right through the food plot during the daylight hours. Say we hunted somewhere else in the morning, we want to walk through, we can do that. If we were going out in the afternoon 4 hours before dark, we can do that too. And so both of those ways we can get in and out, and we're not going to spook deer during the daylight. If it's after dark, we can actually go on the other side of the terrace up here through an old lane in the fields, and we can get around this food plot without spooking deer that would be here during the dark. And so there's a few ways we can get around this food plot without even talking about hunting it. And that's the first consideration. It's not, can you hunt the plot? It's, can you get around it? Can you keep from spooking deer on it? Because if you can't, then you need to shrink the plot, relocate the plot, or not plant it in the first place. Just because you're offering some good food to the deer doesn't mean that you're doing a good job if you're spooking them off and they all get killed on your neighbors and you hurt your overall quality of the herd. So that first thing, hunter access, that's what we're really considering, and that's very important. Next thing, once we have this food plot here and we determine that we can get around it, how can we screen it better so that we can do so? Well, if you look back this way, you can see my house just across the draw. Let's say the house is 150 yards away. And when you think about it, it seems close for us because we have a lot of field edge around here, about 2.3 miles. So 150 yards away seems like it's pretty close. Could be even 175 to 200, but that's, when you think about it, a lot of 10-acre parcels where people hunt, 40 acres. There's houses, buildings around, and certainly on the property we hunt in Coon Valley in Wisconsin, that's the case. But we're pretty blessed with what we have here. For one, we have a lot of open space right here that I'll kill. On this side of the food plot, we'll create about a 40 to 50 foot bank of switchgrass. Deer don't like to bed in switch because they don't have browse. So by putting that switch on this end, we're going to be able to seal in this food plot area, and it'll greatly diminish the noise and sight that comes over from the house in that direction. Now, secondly, we have a lot of box elder on this end, which is really nice because we can go partway up that box elder, we can cut them, hinge them, tip them down, and it'll create an incredible wall of regeneration. A lot of those shoots just this year will be 8 to 10 feet tall off the side of those box elders. That's something we'll get moving on here pretty quickly. So between the box elder on this side, a big bank of switchgrass will greatly diminish any sights or sounds that are coming from the house. And that'll actually set up one of our favorite blind locations out here too for potential blind. Now when we move along this edge right up here, if you can see all the way down, we have a redneck way back there. That's our next food plot. That's where Dante shot his big 10 point and Diane was filming. So that's a hidden food plot way back there. We're about 250 yards away, I'd say, something like that. Along this edge of the ag land, it'll be all switch. On the outside edge of this food plot, we're gonna go 20 feet. Sometimes 10 feet's good enough, but I wanna make sure that we can have a corridor through there that we can get in and out of the land without spooking deer out in the field or down on this food plot, in theory, especially during the daylight hours. We can go right through that tunnel where we have switchgrass on the food plot side, switchgrass on the field edge side, and at least 20 feet wide. We might even go with 30 feet wide. When we get to the end of this food plot, where it starts to dip down back there, we're actually gonna create a bank of switchgrass that extends all the way over to the other food plot and that other tree line over there. So that bank of switchgrass will be at least 80 to 100 yards long, and it will contour with the edge of the woods there. So it will go all the way from field to woods. In some locations there it's 30 feet wide, in others it's 60 feet wide. And then we'll be able to put our access trail for the Kubota, side-by-side, pickup truck, whatever we want, and certainly the quiet cats to get through here for hunting, access. And again, we can go out in the fields. All of that will help set up the opportunity for deer to be up here and hidden, for us to get in and out, access better. And then finally, on the outside edge of this food plot, once we get this cleared, I'm considering having Brandon for First Choice Food Plots coming in here and cleaning up some of this garbage right here. We have some small trees. You can see the big oak back there. We're going to potentially clear at an angle where we still have a decent slope. It's not too steep. We're not getting erosion. And we'll clear this out all the way around the old blind there that you can see that would have been in the middle. We'll get rid of that, but as you can see where the trees aren't dropping off too far, there's the point. We're going to clear this out, and that'll help us get a good size for the plot. The plot will be rimmed in switchgrass, again, 20 to 30 feet wide on this side, 50 feet wide, 40 feet wide on this side, along with box elder hinge cuts to help screen. And then on the lower side of the plot, we'll probably go with 6 to 8 feet, just enough so that deer, either on the other side of the hollow, can't see into here, or from the outside of the food plot, a buck has to come in here and look around, and that'll set up this plot and make it so we can safely get in and out. Now, what I really like about this plot is it's a good size. I'm guesstimating we're gonna get about 3/4 of an acre, and we might be able to get an acre in here. What that does for us is it creates an opportunity to get an appreciable amount of food here, and this relates to everything we're doing as far as the rest of the food plots and bedding areas it will potentially create with the flow of the parcel. But that size of the plot in the end is point number 6, will help us determine if this is going to be a hunting plot or a destination plot. And most of the time on the properties, I like destination plots. Hunting plots get a lot of hunters into trouble with over hunting them too much, spooking out the deer herd, and ultimately spooking out the bedding areas, travel corridor, and that ripple effect of 200 to 300 yards around that plot that you're hoping to remain a sanctuary. But when you spook out that plot, you destroy the ability of that plot to be a sanctuary. So this would be a good sized plot that we can command the attention of a certain number of doe fawn family groups and a couple of bucks. They can call this their own and then head on to greener pastures after dark. What I really like about this plot mostly is that we have the large plot down there. We have a really good transition in between where it's a cruising area on the inside of the woods. We can offer 30 to 60 foot wide switchgrass plantings all the way along the outside of this timber. That allows us to get in and reinforce this movement right here. We might even add a water hole over in that location, but bottom line, we have food, transition of cover, and cruising corridor, big patch of food. And then there's a really good crossing down the hill that skirts the outside of our house in the woods and down. And then we have our cornfield up about 250 yards from here right now. And everything's in a line through here. So we have big food. We have food across the hollow on the other side. So we go all the way down, back up the other side is ours. And look, picture this as like a giant spear, and this is the tip of the spear. The corn is kind of at the tip of the spear. It's flanked by green and big food plots on either side. And so, like we're doing right now in the winter, we're holding a lot of deer up top here as they're going to the different food plots. They're really hammering our food plots right now. The late season brassica blend from Northwoods Whitetails, a Sweet Feast brassica blend. They're hitting our corn up there, and between brassicas and corn, we're holding the attention of most deer in the area. And the cool thing is, and how it flows, is that all the way around this is ag field where there's no woods. And so when we bring the deer up out of the hollow into this point of the spear, we're protecting them, and we're advancing those bucks to the next age class. And between the peas and oats and late planted beans and then rye in the early season, September, October, transitioning into November, and then now the brassica that they start hitting in November, and then still towards late January, then we've been able to hold the attention of these deer, and really this food plot just matches that and that flow that we have. Now the cool thing within this flow, if you're creating that deer line of movement, then we have a great opportunity for stand locations. Now, right in this corner right here, you can see how brushy it is. You see all the box elder. We're going to cut some of that down, and we'll hinge it high so that we can have that screening effect. We're not trying to get deer to bed there or anything, and I'm purely looking at it as a block. So if we can safely stand in the back of the Kubota and cut some of that down a little bit higher, we will. If we have to cut it down lower, that's fine too. But we can put a really nice redneck right there behind that brush so that we can come into this location. It might even be possible to get a bow shot out here in some way, but bottom line, we'll be able to cover this whole edge and this whole food plot with a gun very easily, and maybe even use a bow. There's a point back here in the woods. The deer go around the inside of that point towards the bowl, towards the hollow, and they go up to the cornfield, and then there's food plots down below, and that's a great place to watch those deer transitioning. From this food plot, we could get into a stand there in the morning. We could get into a stand there in the evening for cruising bucks going between food sources. So great stand location over there. Great redneck location right here within that box elder and behind it. We can hide it really well. And then that transition between this food plot and that major food plot over there that's over 2 acres, then we'll be able to put a stand. There's gonna be a solid bank of switchgrass there. We'll be able to put a stand over there. We can drop right into that stand location. Outstanding for a post-daybreak stand entrance where we can come in about 15 minutes after daylight, make sure all the deer are out of here, out of the area, so we can just slip in, blow our scent back to the field. And what's nice, it drops down so sharply, we can blow our scent off the cliff too in the morning. So in the evening, we have to blow it back towards the field, but in the morning, we can blow it towards the hollow or away from the hollow, and we'll be safe. And so 3 really solid stand locations. Blind, stand over there, stand back there, and we'll be able to watch this very easily. Now, you know what to plant here. Because it's a good size, it's not like a hidden little food plot in the woods, it's a pass-through, then we're going to be able to plant our normal mix in here where we're putting a brassica blend on one side, and then we have that green blend of late planted beans, peas, oats, and then top dress with rye. We really make that really thick, and that's what the deer are feeding on during September, October, early November, and then they're transitioning over that brassica blend. And we were able to get our brassicas huge this year. You know, like I said, John Comp's blend does really well, especially in these northern environments, and the deer are hammering them right now. We have some really cool shots and video of where they're eating out the inside of those turnips and radishes and just eating out that hole, and they're digging down to snow. It's not huge snow right here compared to what I'm used to up in the UP, but we're still at probably 10 inches right around there, something like that, maybe a foot, a little bit more in the drifts. But we'll plant that same blend, and what that'll allow us to do is spread out more does and fawns around the property more efficiently, meaning this is a solid food plot. Because it's big enough, like I said, it's 3/4 of an acre, we might be able to get it to an acre. Then we have the 2 acre plot back there, 2 acres, 2.5 on that side, 2 acres on the back over there. So this will add to the acreage, and we'll be able to plant our normal mix and expect to hold deer efficiently around the land. You don't want to plant brassicas here, late planted beans and peas over there, clover over there, corn over there. You don't want to separate all of this on all these different feeding plots. You want to have the same mix everywhere. Now at the tip of the spear, we have the corn up there, and that's where we're holding deer. They start hitting that corn in November, December, January. That's really helping to help some bucks survive because they can feed on all this green. They're hitting the corn, and then they go out to the ag fields at night. So it's a perfect transition. But again, because of the size of the plot, we can plant that high quality food blend that we're used to, and really spread out the use of the deer herd on all of our field edge all the way around the acreage here. What that does is it allows for more micro movements that are very low stress to the local deer herd. We have food that'll hold all the way through January, February like it is this year, and they can focus on that the entire hunting season. They can focus on the bedding areas that are next to it, and that'll keep them attracted and safe unless we shoot them throughout the entire season. Now, what that allows us to do, we're not hunting on this edge back here in the food plot. So we're going to go on this inside layer, and that's where we're dropping that timber, whether it's hinge cutting small trees. We have quite a bit of aspen back in here that we're just going to take a face cut. We want there's the regeneration of the aspen with the lateral root system. So we'll cut that back there. We'll cut a few trees. We want to allow some sunlight to come into these lower benches down here so we can actually bed some doe family groups right on the inside of this food plot. Again, helping to spread out the doe herd around the property. That creates lots of little micro movements of bucks that relate to these movements of does and food, and we can actually pack more deer into this area. Low hunting pressure or no hunting pressure applied to the local deer herd anyways, that they see it as, and then that'll fit within this entire system. And finally, something you always have to consider when you're looking at your food plot, is this going to be a destination plot or a hunting plot? Like I said, it is going to be a destination plot. That being said, we can put a redneck on the corner of this plot. We have really good access. In fact, it tips down over the ridge. We'd have a big bank of switchgrass. We can pop up into this, and it might be that we're shooting at something in this end right here, but for the most part that would be for gun, possibly for bow. And then we have a stand location that's going to be 150 yards from here back down in the woods that will relate to the movement from food to food. On the inside, picture it as a barbell. And then this relates to that movement around here, so that gives us a stand location over there. But these stands are not on the food plot, just watching deer go back and forth during the daylight or rutting activity. It'd be really hard, except for this redneck, to be able to get down the ladder and get out of here, to get in and out of the edge of this food plot without spooking deer, especially after dark when they're in here, or before morning if we were popping in here. So definitely some opportunity to hunt around it, but not a true hunting plot where it's just a pass through for deer wanting to get to a major food source destination. This would be considered a major food source destination in this location. So there you have it with this location. I think it's going to fit really nicely with everything else we have going on here. It'll contribute to a few new stand locations. It'll hold deer in an area that deer are not necessarily holding exactly right now. It'll give them a reason to hold in the location. We can then create those bedding areas too. I can't wait to, if we do have a redneck right there, or a pop-up, or even one of the redneck ghillie blinds, we'll be able to get in and out of that on this end and watch it. I think we'll add a water hole over here for hunting, and that'll be about 400 yards from another water hole that we're adding to. We have a few of those tanks this year. And so bottom line though, like I said first, we have to be able to get in and out of our land without spooking deer. We're making sure we add the appropriate amount of screening here. We're making sure we can get around it first without screening, and then we're adding the screening just to be extra safe. And really that's the priority of your food plot. The size of the plot, if you can hunt it or not, what you're going to plant. Always consider the access around the food plot, your potential of spooking deer. Trust me, the risk of spooking deer off a plot is very critical, and it can damage your whole hunting property, or at least a large portion of it, with the ripple effect that extends 200 to 300 yards into the woods in a case like this, and could ruin that entire area. So we're considering a lot of access and screening first, and that's what you should do as well. And then think about hunting towards the end in your stand locations. I can't wait to bring this new food plot to you. I can't wait to bring how well it grows. We started using the plot start last year, and worked really well, especially getting that soil amended so that we can give it a little bit of boost, plot start going into the hunting season. And that seemed to really work on our other plots, especially where we didn't plant it and where we did, and how it looked. So stay tuned throughout the year. This is something we'll bring to you. And right now it was 14 degrees, 20-mile-an-hour winds not too long ago this morning, and it's still kind of breezy. And I can't wait till we're getting green in here, that I can actually hear some birds chirping, and enjoy that spring coming up, and it won't be too long away. Enjoy this journey of this food plot this season. Can't wait to bring the hunting and the stand locations around here and the entire build-up throughout the summer and fall. Now, as we transition into habitat season, I hope you've had a chance to check out my web class, How to Design Your Whitetail Parcel. It's on my website, whitetailhabitatsolutions.com. I have a link in the description, and I hope you can find it, check it out, and enjoy it this year.